Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Better Than Food Book Reviews. Welcome to another patron exclusive review today of a short story from Tales of Ordinary Madness by Charles Bukowski. One of my earliest reviews, actually, and a very bad one. I kind of consider it practice. But today I want to dig a little bit deeper into this collection of short stories and tell you about not only one of my favorite short stories by Bukowski, but one of my most favorite short stories, period. Which is Animal Crackers in My Soup. As you can guess, given Bukowski's themes is a dirty pun, yes, but bear with me, it's worth it. Great to see you, by the way. Hope you're all doing well. It's been a while since I've read anything by Bukowski. I sort of, outgrew is not necessarily the right term, but just sort of like moved on and had things that were more pressing. But for some reason, when I was thinking of stuff to share with you guys the other day, this stuck with me. This one has stood the test of time. I still remembered what I loved about it, particularly the ending, vividly. And there's a real weirdness that is iconic and unique about Bukowski, and I think it's distilled to like its purest form in this story. When I was younger, there was something attractive about the slovenly, kind of loose cannon freedom that came with Bukowski's writing and his methods, or, lack thereof, kind of like this, anti-structure, right? This sort of all-encompassing supreme laziness. This sort of emphasis on not trying, on being irresponsible, and so on. For example, there's this quote, "Show me a man who lives alone and has a perpetually dirty kitchen, and 5 times out of 9 I'll show you an exceptional man. Show me a man who lives alone and has a perpetually clean kitchen, and 8 times out of 9 I'll show you a man with detestable spiritual qualities." I like the arbitrary statistics of that. I get it, it's entertaining, but now I'm in a very different chapter of my life. One that demands a lot of discipline and structure, which is fine. We all have different artists or different writers that speak to us at different points in our lives. I think it's great to have a large spectrum, essential even, so it's not like I would say that anybody who's reading Bukowski is wasting their time. Well, if it's all you're reading, I would say it's a waste of time. So let's talk about the guy Time magazine called the laureate of American lowlife. Many of his common themes are now cliche amongst, young writers trying to be transgressive or whatever. Sex, drugs, gambling, alcoholism. But the unique distinguishing theme to this collection is madness. And with an imagination like Charles Bukowski's, you're going to be in for something entertaining. I don't know if all the stories in this collection have to do with madness. It's been a while since I've read all of them, but I know that my 2 favorites certainly do. Bukowski is funny. There's no question about it. That's the big draw. You very well may laugh out loud, and there's very few authors I've read who can make me or cause me to laugh out loud. Mark Twain and Roberto Bolaño being a couple of the others. You ought to post a response of some authors that make you laugh, actually. I think I could use more of that in my life. Maybe we all could. You'd be hard-pressed to find an author who was able to take so much pain from real life and transmute it into this iconic form of humorous fiction. He was an author who was born in Germany, but is most often associated with the city of Los Angeles, where he grew up. Considered a late bloomer, sort of coming at this writer thing against all odds, it seems. Having success later in life, as his first novel, Post Office, was published when he was 50. When you're reading Bukowski, you can just hear his voice. That character that influenced so many. The crusty sailor-like Tom Waits voice, down and out, yet somehow lovable, drunken genius of the gutter. So like I said, this is my favorite short story by Bukowski from his collection Tales of Ordinary Madness, Animal Crackers in My Soup. There's a strange form of dirty, Americanic magical realism at play here, where the low-life alter ego of Bukowski gets himself into bizarre situations that unfold naturally, developing into such an outrageous situation that you're sort of amazed that it works. I think it's his casual delivery that perfectly suspends your disbelief. As if you're listening to an old drunk tell you a story that is total nonsense, right? You're already prepared for this to be bullshit. Yet they're clever and charming, so you listen. And maybe if you're paying attention, you can catch some moment of idiot savant brilliance. Or you're just gonna get a really crude and funny story. Animal Crackers in My Soup has such an amazing ending that I'm amazed it hasn't been imitated to death. Maybe it has, I'm not sure. It's close to my favorite short story ending, though that position is held by Jorge Luis Borges' The Circular Ruins. Animal Crackers in My Soup is a fairy tale from the gutter. An odd, magical, dirty realism piece that displays the absurdist nihilism of Bukowski's emotional state, and his feeling of being a victim and playing the role of the downtrodden alcoholic who's just experienced too much life, along with the lover who is also equally misunderstood, and both are inevitably destroyed by society. But the way in which the story plays out shows that beneath the self-destructive violence and the crass tough guy bravado, he has a poet's heart, and the story reveals a sad, strange, warm, tragic compassion. The Bukowski alter ego meets a woman who lives in a house with a bunch of animals. Her liberated zoo, as she calls it. And recovering from a bender, he wakes up completely hungover, looking for water. She invites him in to stay for a while, and he comes to realize that she's sleeping with all of them. She's having sex with all these animals, snakes and tigers and so on. And then him too, of course. This woman, Carol, who takes in the broken down, death-driven alcoholic, who thinks he's going crazy, lives with all these animals, her liberated zoo, in this big house. Turns out she's also a social outcast and spent some time in the madhouse. So he realizes that she's sleeping with all the animals, he catches her in the act a couple times, and he starts sleeping with her as well. And she becomes pregnant, either by him, or the animals, or both. And this outrageously bizarre but oddly moving love story ensues. But of course it turns tragic. One day after they've gone out of the house, they return to find all the animals dead. The people from town who hated Carol shot them all while they were out of the house. Just when things are looking good, it all comes crashing down because of other people. And that seems to be a common sentiment in Bukowski's stories, and an immature one. But for this story, it works. There's this sweet, sad, childlike simplicity to the story, like listening to a drunk. And I wouldn't be surprised if he wrote it while drunk. But it's the kind that in the right moments hits the exact right note of sincerity. In many other forms it can become saccharine or fake or the bullshitting of an alcoholic. But something about the way Bukowski gets it, his delivery, sometimes it's so dead on it's emotionally overwhelming. The ending is what I really remember ever since I read it for the first time. And I must have been 19 or 20, maybe younger. I just thought it was such a grand encapsulation of his whole thing, his whole style. The best couple of paragraphs that I read by him. The self-pity and the pain felt from rejection, leading to such a human place. A place we have all felt and will feel at various moments in our lives. A place of total confusion and fear. Fear at what we are and who we are. And not only fear and confusion of dying, but also of living. I just love this. I gotta read this to you. This is the ending to Animal Crackers, the last two paragraphs. So she got pregnant and she's having the baby and they're at the hospital. I took the elevator upstairs to the glass partition. There must have been 100 babies in there crying. I could hear them through the glass. On and on it went, this birth thing and this death thing. Each one had his turn. We entered alone and we left alone, and most of us lived lonely and frightened and incomplete lives. An incomparable sadness descended upon me, seeing all that life that must die, seeing all that life that would first turn to hate, to dementia, to neurosis, to stupidity, to fear, to murder, to nothing, nothing in life and nothing in death. I told the nurse my name. She entered the glass room and found our child. As she held the child up, the nurse smiled. It was a tremendously forgiving smile. It had to be. I looked at the child. Impossible. Medically impossible. It was a tiger, a bear, a snake, and a human. It was an elk, a coyote, a lynx, and a human. It did not cry. Its eyes looked upon me and knew me, and I knew it. It was unbearable. Man and Superman, Superman and Super Beast. It was totally impossible, and it looked upon me, the father, one of the fathers, one of the many, many fathers. And the edge of the sun gripped the hospital, and the whole hospital began to shake. The babies roared, lights went on and off. A flash of purple crossed the glass partition in front of me. The nurses screamed. 3 fluorescent light fixtures fell from their chains and down upon the babies. The nurse stood there holding my child and smiling as the first hydrogen bomb fell upon the city of San Francisco. I mean, is that an ending or is that an ending? Like, seriously. Nothing left. Just totally, I mean, it's so extreme. And it's like the darkest kind of Dr. Strangelove nihilistic comedy. But I thought that was really something the first time I read it. It's a hell of a short story. It's comedic, but it's also horrifying. Yet somewhere in its Dr. Strangelove black humor, there's something walking the line between joy and horror, between love and fear, between light and darkness. something deeply authentic and inescapable in the human experience, written in the way, crass as it may be, as only Charles Bukowski can write it, and it's better than food. And I'll leave it there for today. My other favorite story from this collection would be The Blanket, which is about a man who discovers his blanket is trying to kill him. But I'll save that for another time. It's good. Really good. You should check it out. Always remember, life is far too short to read bullshit. Thank you very much for your kind donations. Really appreciate it. You're making this whole thing possible. I hope everyone is doing well. Let me know some of your favorite short stories in the comments section below, please, and I will review them. Take care. Good to see you as usual. Have a great night. Talk to you soon. Ciao.